It took being burned alive for me to finally see the truth. I deserved to die for ever looking away. In my past life, I was framed and left to die in a sea of flames. Not a single one of my so-called family members was willing to save me. But my fiancée, the woman I had despised more than anyone, she charged into the inferno like a madwoman. She chose to be consumed by the flames with me. In our final moments, she clutched my hand, her words broken by sobs. "I've waited too long for you in this life. In the next, you have to find me sooner." Maybe her sheer will moved the heavens. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn, 5 years in the past, back to the time when I hated her the most. But this time, I would never let her go. I woke from the dream and sat on my bed, stunned. The alarm clock in the corner ticked away, and a desk calendar sat silently on the nightstand. I looked down at the pristine wedding band on my ring finger. I squeezed my eyes shut. I was really back 5 years in the past. The all-consuming fire and the soft touch of her hand before I died felt so real. Was this a dream, or was it real? I pinched my thigh hard, and a dull ache spread through it. The blare of a car horn from the street below jolted me out of my stupor. After the initial shock, an endless wave of heartache and regret washed over me. A carefully manufactured misunderstanding had made me hate Chloe for years. During that time, her competitors used every dirty trick in the book to crush her. They left her gasping for air. And at home, I treated her with nothing but ice. Chloe's parents had died young, leaving her with no one. She spent the better part of her life alone, just trying to keep the company her parents left her afloat. Eventually, the truth came out. We had a few short, happy months together, and we were even expecting a child. Chloe had cherished that child. As career-focused as she was, she'd taken a long leave from work to rest at home the moment she found out she was pregnant, only to suffer a devastating miscarriage later. Just then, our housekeeper, Maria, came into the room. "Sir, the flowers have been delivered. Are you ready to leave?" Maria asked. "What?" My mind was still a chaotic mess. "The flowers. Weren't you going to see Miss Sophia?" Sophia. Hearing that name jolted me. It was like finding the first thread in a tangled knot. So it was this day. Sophia was my childhood sweetheart, a very talented actress too. But then an accident left her with severe burns all over her body, requiring long-term hospitalization. In my past life, on this very day, I had taken a bouquet of flowers to the hospital. After celebrating Sophia's birthday, I came out and saw Chloe waiting in the car, a look of profound sorrow on her face. But I had no desire to explain myself, or even to look at her. When Chloe saw me, she quickly got out of the car and hurried over. "Ethan, today is my birthday." Her voice held a fragile glimmer of hope. I stopped and turned to her, my gaze cold. "And?" Chloe's clear eyes stared at me, but she said nothing. I said, "It's also Sophia's birthday. You destroyed her face and her career. You did whatever it took just to marry me. How exactly do you expect me to treat you?" Chloe opened her mouth, her voice a weak protest. "It was just an accident." I scoffed at her words. "If you hadn't invited her, she wouldn't be in the hospital. How can you expect me to believe that?" Chloe fell silent, and finally, she just said, "I'm sorry." From that day forward, my relationship with Chloe spiraled downward. We began a long, agonizing Cold War. It was only later that I learned the accident, which even Chloe believed was a fluke, was nothing more than a scheme to drive us apart. Maria's voice, returning, broke through my thoughts. "Sir, everything is in the car. We should go now, or we'll get stuck in traffic." I snapped back to reality, hastily throwing on my jacket and getting into the car. I suddenly realized that because this was 5 years ago, there was still time to fix everything. The driver merged into traffic. "The FDR is already jammed up heading to the hospital. Maybe you should call Miss Sophia and tell her you're running late." I watched the traffic lights change outside the window and said, "Change of plans. Don't go to the hospital. Take me to her office." To be honest, I barely remembered anything about Chloe's company. I hated her so much back then that I never once visited. And later, when I finally loved her, she was being targeted by her frenemies, surrounded by so much danger that I didn't dare go near her. Which is why I was now standing beneath a canyon of skyscrapers in Midtown, completely lost. Which one was her building? Passers-by gave me curious looks. A well-dressed man holding a massive bouquet, looking like he was about to propose. Feeling awkward, I pulled out my phone and found Chloe's contact. Just her full name, not even saved as an emergency contact. I hit the call button, expecting it to ring for a while, but she answered after just 2 rings. Her cool, professional voice came through the phone. Yes. Hearing her voice again, my eyes suddenly burned, and my own voice caught in my throat. Chloe, where's your office? I can't find it. It sounded like Chloe was in a meeting. She paused for a moment, then I heard her say, meeting's over. Then she spoke to me. Stay on the sidewalk. I'm coming down now. A few minutes later, Chloe emerged from the building. Her tall, slender figure cast a long shadow in the sunlight. She was elegant, cool, and utterly breathtaking. In contrast, I caught my reflection in the glass, looking like a disheveled mess. Damn it, what are you doing here? Her tone was flat, almost icy. I turned to face her. Chloe was watching me with a cool, distant expression. No matter the situation, Chloe was always flawless. Like a flower blooming on a cliff's edge, untouched by the world. I looked down, unable to meet her eyes. Sorry for bothering you. Today, she began but didn't finish. I knew what she was thinking. Today I was supposed to be with Sophia for her birthday, not here with her. That reminded me. I thrust the bouquet into her arms and mumbled, "Happy birthday." A long silence followed. I stole a glance at her and saw she was staring at the flowers, her expression far from happy. After a moment, a bitter, sarcastic smile touched her lips. Ethan, she rejected them, didn't she? What? I realized something was wrong, and my eyes shot to the bouquet. My heart sank. Oh no. They were ice blue roses. Their meaning was to give you the stars and the sea. Sophia's favorite things were the stars and the sea. My memories had been so jumbled when I woke up. All I could think about was finding Chloe, and I'd completely overlooked this detail. I'm sorry, Thank you for the birthday present, Chloe said, her voice stiff. It's getting late. I'll have the driver take you home. She turned to leave. I reacted instantly, grabbing her wrist. Wait! Chloe wasn't expecting it and lost her balance, stumbling back into my arms. Her body was soft and smelled faintly of a clean, fresh perfume. Chloe scrambled to her feet and stared at my hand on her wrist, silent for a long moment. I clenched my jaw and said stubbornly, Chloe, I'm not going home. Her expression was bleak. Ethan, what new way have you found to torture me? That was a hard question to answer. In my memory, at this point, Chloe and I were newlyweds, and I was in the middle of making her life hell. The fights were almost entirely one-sided, with me doing all the yelling. I said the cruelest things I could think of. Even the gifts I gave her were chosen specifically to twist the knife. I was the boy who cried wolf, and after so many false alarms, she had stopped believing anything I said. I remembered how after the truth came out in my past life, my methods had been more direct, more forceful. All it took was pinning her down. She looked so cool and distant, but she was surprisingly easy to win over. But that approach probably wouldn't work now. Besides, Chloe had endured so much pain and injustice. I wanted to make it up to her properly. After thinking for a moment, I said, let me take you to dinner. Chloe looked down, her voice cool. No, thank you. I have to work tonight. I shamelessly followed her. Then I'll order in. I'll get you some noodles for your birthday. Chloe didn't say a word, completely ignoring me. She still held the bouquet tightly in her hand. We passed a trash can, and I expected her to toss the flowers without a second thought, but she didn't. I followed her all the way into her office. A cold, untouched takeout container sat on her desk. She hadn't even started it. Was this how she planned to spend her birthday dinner? A pang of sympathy hit me. I took out my phone and ordered her a proper meal. Clear broth, low sodium, no scallions. I got her tomato beef brisket and a few mild vegetable sides. In the past, Chloe had always ordered spicy, heavy food to suit my tastes. I only found out later that she had a sensitive stomach and couldn't handle anything too spicy, oily, or salty. After placing the order, I sat on the sofa, unsure of what to say. Nothing seemed right. Chloe was unwrapping the roses, about to put them in a vase. The sight of those ice blue roses stung my eyes. Without a second thought, I walked over, snatched them from her, and threw them in the trash. She froze, looking at the bead of blood that had formed on her thumb where a thorn had pricked her. She sighed, exhausted. Ethan, are you done yet? No. I suppressed my frustration, angry that she just took it, like she had no fight left in her. You don't have to keep them. If you don't like them, I'll buy you different ones. Chloe took a tissue and pressed it to the cut, her eyes downcast. Just forget it, she said, her voice full of resignation. I ignored her, grabbed the bag of trash and said, wait here. Then I rushed out. On that summer evening, The sidewalks were lined with street vendors selling flowers. Their quality couldn't compare to the expensive bouquets from a proper florist, of course. I ran between several of them, buying up all their red roses, and had them wrapped simply in brown paper. The food delivery arrived just as I finished, so I hauled everything upstairs. The 19th floor was even quieter than before. The few people who had been working late were gone. Only a single small lamp was on in Chloe's office. I quieted my footsteps as I pushed the door open. She was standing with her back to me, looking out the floor-to-ceiling window, her figure looking desolate. She looked like an abandoned kitten. The heavy bouquet and the food bags bumped against the door with a thud. Chloe's back stiffened. She spun around and saw me, nearly buried under everything I was carrying. She didn't seem to expect me to return. After a moment of shock, she hurried over and took the massive bouquet from me. I caught my breath, beads of sweat on my forehead, but I managed a grin. "These are for you." I bought every red rose I could find on the street. A blank expression washed over Chloe's exquisite face. Crap. It seemed she couldn't handle me being nice to her. Did I have to be cruel for her to understand? When I saw her about to go back to her cold dinner, I let out an exaggerated sigh. Chloe's head snapped toward me, and I caught a flicker of concern in her eyes. I leaned back on the sofa, tilted my chin up, and said impatiently, "Can't you eat something warm? It annoys me to see you eating that cold crap." Chloe was silent. For the next half hour, the office was filled with my constant complaints. "Do you even know how to eat? Can't you see that huge piece of beef? Are you going to eat your vegetables? You're a grown woman, not a picky kid. Eat the noodles. Did I buy them for you to stare at?" After my relentless nagging, the bowl of hot noodles was finally empty. I was worried she wouldn't be full, so I'd also gotten her a couple of dinner rolls and even gave her the pastry I'd bought for myself. If I had to do this every day, it would kill me. I had talked myself hoarse. Suddenly, a glass of water appeared in front of me. I looked up to see Chloe watching me. "You should wet your throat before you continue yelling." Her expression had softened considerably. Though her eyes were still void of light, at least the icy defensiveness was gone. I fought the urge to pull her into a hug and said, "Chloe, from now on, let's try to live well together." At my words, she looked away and silently began to clean up, not answering my question. "Get your coat. I'll have the driver take you home." "But I just got here," I protested, wanting to stay longer. But she quickly pushed the door open and left, almost as if she were fleeing from something. A CEO doesn't need to take out her own trash, after all. It would be a lie to say I wasn't disappointed. After being reborn, it felt like this woman was even harder to win over. I sat on the sofa, planning my next move. Should I be direct and just pin her down, or should we talk things out first? The sharp ring of a phone shattered my thoughts. I answered it absent-mindedly. The voice on the other end was distant yet familiar. "Ethan, where are you?" My buoyant mood instantly plummeted as I remembered her. "Oh, it's you." My tone was far from enthusiastic. Sophia's voice was soft. "I've been waiting for you. Didn't you promise you'd celebrate my birthday with me?" Remembering everything that had happened, my fingers tightened into a fist, my knuckles turning white. "Sophia, we're friends, right? We grew up together." Sophia sensed my distance and corrected me. "Ethan, we're family." "Family," I repeated. Then I asked suddenly, "Is there anything you need to tell me?" She was silent for a long time before sighing. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have snuck a piece of cake behind your back. See? This is what I mean. The one who is cared for can lie, make demands, and joke without a second thought, while Chloe has to stand in the shadows and endure everything." A chill ran through me, and I couldn't even force a smile. "I'm busy today. I can't make it. Happy birthday." I hung up, taking a deep breath to quell the unease in my chest. I remembered the call from Sophia right before I was kidnapped, asking for my location. I was lost in thought. She was the person I trusted most in the world. But what if, from the very beginning, the explosion was an inside job? I looked up and saw Chloe standing in the doorway, her face obscured by shadows, her expression unreadable. I hesitated before asking, "Did you hear all of that?" "Yes." "Let's go," she said, her voice eerily calm, as if she were suppressing a storm of emotion. "The car is downstairs." I opened my mouth, but I had no idea how to explain what was going to happen. She'd think I was insane. I followed her out the door, a wave of guilt washing over me. "Chloe." Her steps slowed for a fraction of a second, but she didn't turn around. "That was Sophia on the phone," I said, the words rushing out. I did promise to celebrate her birthday yesterday, but I'm different today. I'm from the future. Chloe stopped dead in her tracks and turned, her beautiful eyes frosted over. That's enough. She closed her eyes, composing herself. The dinner was very good, and I was happy you could be here for my birthday. I watched her closely, seeing the pain she tried to bury deep in her eyes. Her lips were pale, and every word seemed to tremble out of her, as if she were in excruciating pain. So, in the end, if you're going to her, I accept it. That's the price I have to pay. In my past life, Chloe once told me that for every small kindness I showed her, she paid for it with even greater pain. That's why she never dared to hope for anything from me and was always prepared for me to leave. Those words now felt like a knife twisting in my heart. It hurt so much. On this day in my past life, while I was away, her dinner had been a single cold takeout container. No one had even wished her a happy birthday. That's why she had been waiting for me outside the hospital. All Chloe wanted was to hear me say happy birthday, but instead, I told her to get lost and stay away from me. The weight of the truth, discovered too late, was crushing me. She looked away. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. It's getting dark. If you're going to the hospital, you should. I grabbed Chloe's hand, forcefully lacing my fingers through hers. Her body went rigid, but she didn't pull her hand away. Her voice was a low, hoarse whisper. Ethan, what are you doing? Isn't this humiliating enough for me? I wrapped my arm firmly around her slim waist and said with unyielding force, Don't move, my love. Those few words seemed to cast a spell on her, holding her completely still. I leaned down and kissed Chloe's cool lips. I held her waist, pressing her gently against the wall, my touch careful and soothing. She went from stiff and shocked to finally surrendering, her eyes fluttering shut. Her immaculate dress became a wrinkled mess. Without realizing it, her hands came up, her arms wrapping greedily around my back, pulling us flush against each other. The overhead lights of the hallway flickered, and we finally broke apart in the darkness, pressing our foreheads together, breathing heavily. Ethan, Chloe's voice was a low, strained whisper. Don't do this. You don't like it? No, she said after a long pause. Don't tempt me. Go to her, while I still have some self-control left. You'd let me? I whispered, blowing softly against her ear. You're not jealous? Not angry? You'd let me go kiss someone else? That seemed to trigger something in her. She suddenly looked up and silenced me with her own mouth. A smirk played on my lips. But what happened next was slightly beyond my control. Chloe, I was suddenly on high alert. Hey, what are you doing? I meant we could, at home. Her cool, commanding voice was laced with an undeniable authority. I gave you a chance to leave. You didn't take it. Now that chance is gone. The next thing I knew, she had pushed me down onto the office sofa. I never thought Chloe had it in her to do something so bold. But I had forgotten. In my past life, she was the kind of madwoman who would die for love. There was a wild streak buried deep inside her. Things escalated beyond my expectations. Chloe's weak pleas for mercy were muffled against my lips. Ethan, please have a little mercy on me. I gritted my teeth and held her tight, a lump forming in my throat. Chloe, I've already picked out names for our children. I thought about them for so long in my past life but never had the chance to tell her. Ethan, don't, she whispered, her voice hoarse. You don't believe it's possible? I was met with only silence. She was probably too afraid to even hope that we could have a child together. I said, one for a boy, one for a girl. I'll let you choose the nicknames. I didn't realize that my words would throw the woman who had just regained her composure right back into a frenzy. The door clicked shut. The wind whispered outside the large windows. The moonlight was bright and clear, and from behind the closed door came only soft whispers. Late into the night, I teased her that I didn't want her anymore. Chloe hugged me tightly without a word and asked, If not me, then who do you want? She asked with complete seriousness. My face flushed as I retorted, Anyone but you. She mumbled into my chest, That's not for you to decide. That night, my dreams were a tangled mess of Chloe and the all-consuming fire from my past life. I was lying in a pool of my own blood, explosives strapped to my chest. Chloe rushed through the flames and held me, her body trembling. I could see she was crying, and I could only weakly lift a hand to push her away. Go! Chloe, I said go. Don't touch me. I'm begging you. The sound of crying shattered the dream. The warmth of her touch vanished instantly. I fell back into darkness and my eyes snapped open, my cheeks wet with tears. It was a dream. When I came to, I realized I had pushed Chloe to the very edge of the bed. From the look on her face, I had been talking in my sleep. She handed me a tissue but kept her distance, sitting on the far side of the bed. Her fingers carefully avoided touching mine. My heart sank. She had misunderstood. Chloe, I began. I was just dreaming. She was listening intently. I was in the fire with a bomb strapped to me, and you were about to die with me. That's why I was yelling. Don't get the wrong idea. A brief spark of understanding lit up Chloe's eyes before they went dim again, returning to a lifeless calm. Okay, I believe you. With that, she tucked the blanket around me, picked up her pillow, and started to leave the room. Chloe, I called out to her back. You're lying. She didn't say anything. Fine, go then. I sat there on the bed, feeling no desire to explain further. No wonder people say youth makes you stubborn. This 5 years younger Chloe was so much more rigid, not as endearing as she would become. After a long silence, the mattress dipped behind me. Chloe sighed. Go to sleep. Hold me. She obediently settled into my arms. The night was still long, but I stared into the endless darkness, all sleepiness gone. Since my rebirth, too much information was swirling in my mind. The man who kidnapped me had a history with Chloe. He was a businessman whose company she had driven to bankruptcy. The accident that had happened to Sophia was actually a plot by my uncle Marcus to drive Chloe and me apart. These were all things I had learned in the final year of my past life. My movements were always kept private, yet I was still abducted. How did they know where to find me? The only possibility was the phone call from Sophia. And just before the end, Chloe had said, "Thanks, Sophia. Without her, I never would have found you." I was too close to see it then. But looking back now, what role did Sophia, my first love, the person I trusted for over a decade, really play in all of this? After a sleepless night, I woke up feeling groggy. I fell back asleep and didn't wake up again until the afternoon. She had clearly anticipated I'd wake up hungry, as lunch was neatly laid out on the table. The house was immaculate, everything in its proper place. After quickly washing up and eating, I went to Chloe's home office. It was silent. She was in the middle of a video conference. The soft, late afternoon light slanted through the window, casting a gentle glow on Chloe's stunning, cool face. It softened the cool, distant aura she naturally projected. My heart skipped a beat. The more I looked at her, the more beautiful she became. Chloe's perception was always sharp. The moment I opened the door, her eyes flicked up to meet mine. She saw what I was wearing and froze for a second. I gave a small, awkward cough and sat down across from her. I opened my phone and saw 5 missed calls and more than a dozen texts from Sophia, all from late last night. I must have been dead to the world at that point, because I hadn't been woken by the calls. Could it be that? I looked at Chloe, a thought forming in my mind. Her gaze remained fixed on her screen, as if she hadn't noticed me at all. Keep pretending. I crossed my legs and started swinging my foot right in her peripheral vision. Chloe's voice faltered mid-sentence. After a brief pause, she said, "That will be all for today." And with that, she ended the call. She leaned back in her executive chair, her brow furrowed slightly. Ethan. Oh? Last night it was all sweet endearments, and now it's just Ethan? It was a little chilly, so I smiled and draped my jacket over her shoulders. So, Chloe, did my phone happen to ring last night? Chloe calmly looked down. I'm not sure. Is that so? I leaned across the desk and tilted her chin up. She was good at hiding her feelings, but to me, she was still just a young woman. Ethan, it's working hours. She reminded me with a serious tone, but if it weren't for her slightly ragged breath, I might have actually believed she was completely unaffected. Oh, I said, giving her a light kiss. Want another? She was silent for a moment before saying, quite directly, yes. I gave her another kiss. I'll be in the other room. I'll wait for you to finish work, and we can go home together. Back in the other room, my phone rang again. It was Sophia. Ethan, I've been discharged. Her voice was hoarse and nasal, as if she hadn't slept at all. I was taken aback. Why are you out of the hospital? I'm stopping the treatments, she said, her voice dejected. If my face can't be fixed, I'd rather just give up. I want to live a quiet life with you. I frowned, my voice turning cold. That's not possible anymore, Sophia. And besides, I'm married. Then what am I supposed to do? Sophia asked. What about the promises we made? Is it because my face is ruined? Is that why you don't love me anymore? I hesitated. You were the one who said we had to break up so the studio would promote you, so you could have a bigger career. Sophia wouldn't give up, her voice softening. But Ethan, you promised you'd wait for me. And how long was I supposed to wait? I sighed. You had countless chances, but you just kept me waiting. My Uncle Marcus is the kind of man who will do anything to get what he wants. My parents were never interested in me. They left me with the family in New York and moved abroad to start new families of their own. I was just a pawn to the family. While Sophia was becoming a star, I was being backed into a corner by my uncle. That night, I called her over and over, and she just kept declining. The next day, I watched her have her first on-screen kiss, and my heart shattered. That's when I accepted my uncle's proposal. Now, Sophia asked over the phone, "Have you fallen in love with Chloe?" I didn't hesitate for a second. I love her. In the days that followed, I didn't hear from Sophia again. I did a lot of thinking. To catch the people who set me up in my past life, I needed Chloe's help. The first step was to get her to believe that I had been reborn. Otherwise, she might have me committed. I leaned on my elbows across from Chloe, enthusiastically telling her a story. It was the third reincarnation novel I had read to her this month. Chloe listened attentively. "If you like it so much, I could invest in it, turn it into a series. It's not about whether I like it, it's about whether you do." She glanced at my wrinkled shirt and sighed. "If you like it, then I like it." I pressed on, making a fist and holding it up like a microphone. "So, what are your thoughts on the matter?" Chloe fell silent. We had been getting along much better lately. She was incredibly accommodating, almost bending to my every whim. But I still felt like there was a wall between us. "Chloe," I said, pulling my chair closer and sitting in front of her with a serious expression. "I think it's time I told you." She put down her fork, giving me her full attention. "Go on." With a look of profound gravity, I said, "The truth is, I was reborn too." There was a long silence. Chloe raised a single eyebrow, her lips pressed together in a tight line. She was trying not to smile. Pointed at her. "See, you don't believe me." "Go on, Ethan," she said, the corner of her mouth twitching before she forced it down. "I believe you." I decided to just lay it all out and told her everything that had happened in my past life. At first, she listened as if I were a child telling a fantastical story. She probably thought it was just some new game I was playing. But gradually, her brow furrowed in concentration. I knew I was getting through to her. "The man who stabbed me, his last name was Foster. He used to work for your company before starting his own. Of course, that was in the future. I don't know where he is now. Also, my Uncle Marcus was involved. And finally, you have to watch out for Soph." I couldn't finish my sentence before being cut off by the shrill ring of a phone. Chloe and I both saw the name on the screen at the same time. Sophia. In my haste, I hadn't changed her contact name from the old nickname yet. Chloe's expression immediately shuddered, her cold mask slipping back into place. She stood up and picked up her plate. "I'll do the dishes." There it was again, that deliberate avoidance. She was still scared. I gritted my teeth, grabbed my phone, and followed her into the kitchen. She stood with her back to me, turning on the water. I put the call on speaker. Sophia's familiar voice filled the room. "Ethan, this might be the last time I ever call you." I could hear the sound of wind howling in the background. I tensed up immediately. "Where are you?" "The roof of our old high school," she said, her voice faint. "Ethan, do you remember? The day my parents died, you told me your family didn't really care about you either, and that we could be a family for each other. I was going to jump from this roof when I was 18, but you stopped me," she said, her voice full of a quiet sorrow. "Now that you don't want me anymore, I don't see any reason to keep living. Sophia, don't do anything stupid." My mind went blank. I spun around, grabbing my coat. "Just wait for me. I'm on my way." I hung up and turned to see Chloe still standing at the sink with her back to me. It was as if she hadn't heard a thing, with only the sound of the running water filling the silence. I panicked and rushed over to her. "Hey, what are you doing just standing there? Get changed." I pulled her, making her stumble. She stared at me, her beautiful eyes wide with surprise. "Get changed? It wouldn't be right for me to go alone. I'm a married man." I impatiently pulled out my phone again, speaking rapidly. "Chloe, you have 10 seconds to take off that apron. I'm calling 911. Sophia's lost her mind. There are still kids in evening classes at that school. What if she jumps in front of them?" "I'm ready." Chloe was already standing by the door, ready to go. I blinked. Wow, that was fast. The police were already on the scene when we arrived. They instructed me not to have any further contact with Sophia. As long as she had that sliver of hope, she wouldn't do anything rash. It also gave them enough time to evacuate the school. We reached the high school quickly. The wind on the roof was fierce, but it did little to cut the summer heat. The campus below was eerily silent. The police kept a safe distance, about 15 feet from where Sophia was. An officer pulled me onto the roof. "Mr. Hayes, she insists on seeing you. We need you to stall for time. The rescue team is on its way." I glanced at Chloe, who was held back behind the police tape. She gave me a firm nod. I took a deep breath, climbed the final steps to the roof, and called out, "Sophia." The figure sitting on the ledge stirred and turned her head. I could see the scarred side of her face. "Ethan, you came." Looking at her, I felt a strange sense of dislocation. Felt like I hadn't seen her in a very long time. In my past life, after Chloe and I reconciled, we had tried to visit her a few times, but Sophia had been very resistant. I guess when you've hated someone for so long, it's hard to let go of that hatred, even when you find out they weren't the one who hurt you. On top of that, Chloe was soon fighting battles on all fronts, and things became so tense that I didn't dare leave the house. Between this life and the last, it had probably been over a year since I'd seen her. "Sophia, please, come down from there." Sophia ignored my plea and just stared at me. "I'm sorry." Her gaze shifted to Chloe, who was waiting for me beyond the police line. "You were right, I was being too extreme. You told me clearly before you got married that we could only be family from then on. I was the one who got too greedy." I thought back to all those years Sophia and I had leaned on each other just to survive. When she was bullied by local thugs, I was the one who protected her, who took the punches for her. When my uncle kicked me out, she was the one who ran through a storm in the middle of the night to bring me an umbrella and take me in. For a moment, my resolve wavered. Was she really the one who had me killed? Sophia smiled. "You promised you'd celebrate my birthday with me every year. Sing happy birthday to me, and I'll come down." "Okay, I'll sing." The wind seemed to die down as the simple melody of the birthday song drifted across the rooftop. But as I sang, all I could think was that I hadn't sung it for Chloe on her birthday. I'd have to make it up to her when I got home. When the song was over, Sophia stood up on the ledge, facing me. "Thank you. I haven't heard you sing that in so many years. It was beautiful. I want to ask you one more question," she said, her voice soft. "Ask. Do you still love me?" I was silent for a long time before I finally answered, "You're my family. You have been from the moment you first stepped on that stage." Sophia's dark eyes looked out over the crowd, as if she were meeting Chloe's gaze. The wind on the roof was making me cold. "Let's go home, okay?" I said. Sophia looked back at me and smiled faintly. "I love you, Ethan." And with that, she spread her arms and fell backward into the endless night. In that moment, time seemed to freeze. The blood froze in my veins. A second later, I lunged for the edge. "Sophia!" But I caught nothing but air. I stared blankly at the dark ground below, my mind completely empty. I thought I heard a dull thud, and my legs gave out, sending me to my knees. Sophia was dead just like that? Had I been wrong about her all along? People are perceptive. I had known her for so many years. Sophia must have sensed my growing distance and chose to end her life because of it. Did that mean I was the one who killed her? I sat there, frozen, my body shaking uncontrollably. Suddenly, a pair of warm hands wrapped around my waist from behind. The familiar scent was a lifeline. I gripped Chloe's hands tightly. "I killed her." She held me close. "She's not dead." The police had an airbag set up below. They caught her. I closed my eyes, and it took a long moment for me to process her words. When someone truly dies because of something you did, the guilt is a mountain that can crush you. Chloe's voice was strained. "Just some scrapes. They took her to the hospital. If you want to go, I can take." "No." My voice was hoarse. "I want to stay with you." "Okay." We went back to the car. Outside, the police were starting to clear the scene. Someone would be by to escort us to the hospital soon. Sophia had no family to call. I was exhausted. I turned to Chloe and said, "There was one last thing I didn't get to tell you before. I suspect Sophia was involved in what happened to me." Chloe took a deep breath. "Ethan, what if she wasn't? If she's innocent, will you choose her or me?" It was only when she asked that question that I could finally, truly breathe a sigh of relief. For so long, Chloe had assumed she would never be the one who was chosen. But the man I was now would choose her every single time. I looked at Chloe seriously. "You remember when Sophia was just starting her career, right?" "Yes. We hadn't even met yet. By then, Sophia and I had already broken up. If I had to define my feelings for Sophia, they were complicated. We had survived a chaotic youth together and entered a harsh world side by side. Compared to all that, the romantic part of our relationship was minuscule. I counted it out on my fingers for her. She debuted, started acting, got more and more famous. By the time you and I got married, she and I had already been broken up for over a year. I admit, I hated you at first. The same way I hated my uncle. I hated people who forced their way into my life. Then, right around that time, Sophia got into that car accident on her way to meet with investors, and the driver was one of your employees. I just assumed you were as ruthless as my uncle. I didn't hate you because I was in love with Sophia. I wasn't. I just couldn't stand the thought of someone who would ruin another person's future over a petty disagreement. Chloe gently squeezed my hand. I'm sorry. It was my fault. I wasn't careful enough. No, I said, kissing her forehead. I told you it was my uncle's fault, not yours. If anyone dares to blame you, I'll fight them. She was quiet for a moment, then said, Thank you. For what? It's the first time anyone has ever taken my side. Her words sent another pang of guilt through me. Few people in our circle ever talked about Chloe's family. She really didn't have anyone to protect her. Chloe looked at me earnestly. Can you tell me how you started to fall for me? The night was dark, but I could see the hope shining in her eyes. I began slowly. One night, you came home drunk and tripped over a little scarf I was knitting for our dog. You then spent half the night sitting cross-legged on the floor, trying to figure out how to knit it yourself. I told you to go to bed, but you said the puppy would be cold in the winter without its scarf. And I thought that someone who could worry about a little dog being cold probably wasn't cruel enough to destroy another person's life. There was another part one didn't tell her. That night, Chloe had talked in her sleep. She'd said, Ethan, I'm cold too. I happened to hear her when I got up for a glass of water. My heart softened. I realized she was just as lonely as I was. All alone with no one to love her. Chloe listened, fascinated. We're going to have a dog? Yeah. 3 years from now, on my birthday, you'll give me one. You'll say you're too busy and never home, so you got him to keep me company. I chuckled, counting on my fingers. Come to think of it, he's probably some old dog somewhere right now, waiting to be reincarnated. Our dog was so smart, he learned everything instantly. I swear he must have skipped the river of forgetfulness. I stopped mid-sentence. Chloe looked at me, puzzled. What is it? I grabbed her hand, my mind racing. Sophia, she's like me. Like you how? On the roof, I said, turning to her, my brow furrowed. Right before Sophia jumped, she said she hadn't heard me sing happy birthday to her in many years. But I celebrated her birthday with her last year. Chloe narrowed her eyes, and understanding dawned on her face. You're saying that in your past life, for several years, you didn't? Yes. The blood rushed to my head. I felt a prickling sense of dread. If, as she said, she'd been waiting many years for me to sing her that song, then there's only one explanation. Chloe and I looked at each other, and I saw the same dawning horror in her eyes that I felt in mine. Let's go to the hospital. Half an hour later, a doctor told us that someone had already picked Sophia up. When we pressed for more information, they cited patient confidentiality and refused to tell us more. Under these circumstances, it was hard to believe Sophia wasn't involved. On the way home, I couldn't stop thinking about one thing. Do you think she jumped on purpose? Chloe's gaze was distant. Usually, if the building isn't too high, the police will set up an airbag. If it were me, I'd be 100% certain I could jump without getting killed. I watched her profile thoughtfully. Oh, so what do you think her motive was? She scoffed lightly. To win your sympathy, so you'd take her side. That was the first time in 2 lifetimes I had ever heard such a jealous remark from Chloe. I pursed my lips and nodded seriously. Yes, you seem to have a good grasp of the situation, she replied drily. It takes one to know one. I didn't call her out on it, just stared out the window at the passing city lights, lost in thought. By telling Chloe who to watch out for 5 years ahead of time, things shouldn't get any worse than they did before. The memory of her rushing into the fire without a second thought to hold me made my heart ache all over again. How could I not have fallen for her? When someone is good to you, you notice. After several hours on the road, it was late by the time we got home. Maria had already gone home for the night. The living room was dark. Just as Chloe reached for the light switch, I lunged, pushing her down onto the sofa. Chloe's clothes were in disarray. What are you doing? She asked, her voice hoarse. Chloe, I whispered, my lips close to her ear. I love you. Her breath hitched. Get off me. Her command was flustered, almost desperate. I blinked in surprise. "Don't tell me you. Don't say it," she said, covering my eyes with her hand. "And don't look." My world went dark. I could feel my eyelashes brushing against her warm palm. Who knew 3 little words could have such a devastating effect? Completely shattered her composure. I grinned. "I love you. I love you. I love you." The teasing words were like a feather, tickling her defenses. Tickling until a spark became a wildfire. I could feel her heart starting to race beneath my hand. I softened my voice. "My love, I love you." The next thing I knew, her lips were on mine. She was more passionate than I had ever seen her, trapping me, her affection an undeniable force. Her hands traced the side of my face and my neck as if I were a precious treasure. Her touch was intoxicating. I chuckled. "Hey, have you thought of any nicknames for our kids yet?" Chloe, overcome with emotion, held me close and whispered, "Ethan, I'm yours." After my shower, my eyelids felt heavy. As I held her, my hands roamed freely, taking every advantage. She was like a gentle kitten, seemingly incapable of anger. "Ethan, I was so tired my voice was thick with sleep. "Right after we got married, you promised to take me to a movie. But you canceled the next day, said you had a stomachache and went to the hospital. Were you going to see her?" For me, that felt like a lifetime ago. I thought back. It had nothing to do with Sophia. The day before, I'd gotten food poisoning from a bad piece of cake. I went to the hospital, got an 4 and some medication, and went straight home to bed. But from Chloe's tone, something was off. My sleepiness vanished instantly. I sat up. After a moment of surprise, Chloe said, "I'm sorry. Don't apologize. I'm not angry," I said, sitting up cross-legged. "I'm just curious. Why would you think I went to see Sophia?" Logically, with her resources, she could have easily found out my whereabouts and known that I was practically half dead on an 4 drip in a hospital bed. But she hadn't checked. After a short silence, Chloe confessed, "I could see Sophia's Facebook posts, but she never posts anything on Facebook." Our eyes met, and we both saw the same confusion in each other's eyes. Chloe took out her phone and handed it to me. I eagerly tapped on Sophia's profile. The moment I saw her feed, my mind went blank. August 9th. Ethan said he'd celebrate my birthday with me today. Thank you, my love. August 1st. Got to taste Ethan's home cooking. Tastes just like it used to. I scrolled frantically back through her posts until I found the one from 6 months ago. My movie is out, waiting for Ethan to come see it. It was from the day I had food poisoning. But when I checked on my own phone, Sophia's Facebook page was completely empty. The posts were set to be visible only to Chloe. The truth was, since I got married, I had barely interacted with Sophia at all. I only ever showed up when the hospital called about a bill, or when her doctor needed to discuss a change in her treatment plan. I had truly been treating her like an old friend, but behind my back, she had been hurting the woman I loved, over and over again. My head throbbed with anger. And you just believed it? There wasn't a single picture of me in any of those posts. Chloe looked down, staring at the blank page on my phone, and a slow light began to dawn in her eyes. Ethan, I was too scared not to believe it. She kept tapping the screen, refreshing the page, as if trying to confirm what she was seeing, an almost unconscious action of someone stepping into the light after being in the dark for too long. I was afraid that if I had someone look into it, I'd find out you really were at the movies with her. If that was the truth, I would have rather not known. I was both angry and heartbroken. You could have just asked me. I stopped mid-sentence. Of course, she didn't dare to ask. Back then, I would have just lashed out at her with cruel words. The answer I would have given her probably wouldn't have been any better than what she was already thinking. I was wrong. I pulled my poor, heartbroken wife into my arms, my own eyes stinging. I'm so sorry. I'll never lose my temper with you again. She let out a small, soft laugh. I could never be angry with you. Just, please don't ever say you don't want me again. That night, the last wall between us finally crumbled. I swear, sometimes I think Chloe has a masochistic streak. It's like she feels uncomfortable if I'm not yelling at her. One morning in early fall, I lost it again. Chloe, are you trying to work yourself to death? Do you want me to have a most dedicated employee plaque made for your tombstone? Over the phone, Chloe's usually smooth voice was thick and raspy, slightly nasal. She tried to laugh it off. I can handle it. She had spiked a high fever late last night, her skin burning to the touch. I called our family doctor, who prescribed some medicine to bring the fever down. I had to half coax, half force her to take it, and then I gave her a sponge bath to cool her down. Her fever finally broke just before dawn. I left a note for Maria with instructions for a light breakfast for Chloe to eat when she woke up. But when I woke up at 10, she was already gone, off to work. Haunted by what happened in my past life, I was extra paranoid about her safety. After a quick breakfast, I grabbed the soup Maria had made and rushed to her office. Her assistant stood up nervously the moment she saw me. "Ms. Hayes is in a meeting. She can't be disturbed." "That's fine, I'll wait." I sat down on the sofa in the waiting area and scrolled through my phone. Soon, I could hear Chloe's voice from inside the office. Her tone was sharper and colder than I had ever heard it. "I gave you a chance. You're the one who didn't take it. Ms. Hayes, you're deliberately setting me up to fail." Chloe let out a soft, cold laugh. "And this is completely unreasonable. I'm a businesswoman. I'm only interested in results. I don't waste time on reason." I listened intently, resting my chin in my hand, while her poor assistant looked like she was about to have a heart attack. The door was flung open and an enraged, middle-aged man stormed out. As he left, his eyes met mine for a second, and I froze. It was Foster, the man who had stabbed me in my past life. Had Chloe already started making her move? 5 years ahead of schedule. She really was a woman of action. The assistant, sweating bullets, announced loudly, "Ms. Hayes, your husband is here." I snapped out of it, picked up the food container, and walked in. Chloe was sitting by the window, her white blouse immaculate. She smiled at me gently. I was planning on coming home for lunch. I set the container down on her desk with a thud and sat across from her. "That man who just left. He's the one I told you about. The one who stabbed me." A layer of ice formed in Chloe's beautiful eyes. "Leave it to me," she said simply, before turning her attention to the food. The timing was perfect. The soup was still warm. She had such impeccable manners. Even the way she ate was elegant. Noticing that I was still staring at her, Chloe paused. "Do you want some?" "Yes." As she stared at me, stunned, I leaned in and stole a kiss. I tasted the soup from her lips. She blushed and shot me a playful, scolding look. After all our years of entanglement across 2 lifetimes, it was only now that we were finally acting like a couple in the throes of new love. Time flew by, and soon it was deep into autumn. Sophia seemed to have vanished from my life. Her phone number was disconnected, and she had cut off all means of contact. Sometimes, seeing high school students getting out of class would remind me of the old days. But my gut told me it wouldn't be over that easily. Chloe became incredibly busy. She was out of the house before dawn and back long after dark. Sometimes it reminded me of my past life. She had been just like this then, always buried in work. "Sir, it's 10 o'clock. You should get some rest," Maria said. I was sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by shopping bags. "I'll wait a little longer." I realized I hadn't seen her in a week. Tonight, I just felt like waiting up for her. The weather was getting colder, so I had gone to the mall and bought Chloe a new winter wardrobe, a camel-colored plaid scarf, a wool coat, and a pair of fluffy, slightly childish matching gloves that I knew she'd love. As I was putting the new coat in her closet, I heard a phone vibrating in the pocket. I pulled it out. It was an email notification. I took a picture of it and sent it to her with a teasing message. "My love, what's this? A secret phone I don't know about." She was used to my strange sense of humor by now and replied, "It's my work phone. I forgot it. Can you open it for me and see what it is?" I chuckled as I opened the email. "It better not be a love letter from a secret admirer, or I'm going to have a fit." The screen changed to show a medical report. I squinted, zooming in on the text. "Sean O'Malley, skull fracture and intracranial hemorrhage. Looks like this guy was hit by something. Oh, there's a death certificate here. A work-related accident. How tragic." After I read it to her, Chloe replied, "Just put the phone back. I'll be home soon." I put the phone back in the coat pocket. Her dinner was still warming in the kitchen. I pulled out some wrapping paper, deciding to wrap the new clothes to surprise her. My friend Ryan was teasing me on the phone. "You used to hate her guts, Ethan. Are you sure you haven't been replaced by a body double? Can't a guy just have been blind before?" All right. So when are you going to finally partner with me on that studio? Do you have any idea how in demand your designs are?" I hesitated. "Let's wait a little longer." Yeah, you just go on and play house with your dear Chloe." I had to admit I did want to spend more time with her. If I was just reliving the same path to the same end, then every day we had together was one day less. Chloe came home right when she said she would. I had left a small lamp on for her in the living room, and her dinner was still warm. She jumped into my arms like a cat. Ethan. I held her, a helpless smile on my face. Hold on tight, don't fall. Go to the bedroom. I have a present for you. In the middle of the bedroom sat a giant, terribly wrapped gift box. What's this? A belated birthday present. Go on, open it. Chloe looked down, her eyes shining with surprise. Ethan, thank you. Her hand rested on the box, and she hesitated for a long moment. There's something I need to talk to you about. What is it? She hesitated, then finally said, we might have to be apart for a while. I was stunned for a second. When her words finally registered, I asked slowly, deliberately, you want to divorce me? I saw a flicker of conflict in her eyes. Just as she was about to speak, I shot to my feet. I get it. I'll go pack my things. Ethan. Chloe grabbed my arm. Please, just listen to what I have to say. Her eyes were welling up with tears. I need you to act out a scene with me. What kind of scene? Sean O'Malley was Sophia's father. Chloe got straight to the point. The man from the email, her father, died in an accident on a construction site. That project, from many years ago, was a joint venture between my father and your Uncle Marcus. I suddenly remembered that day on the roof with Sophia. She had been standing there, her white shirt billowing in the wind like a sail. I had called out, Sophia, what are you doing? She had turned, her pretty face etched with despair. My family is dead. I don't have anyone anymore. I had been shocked by her loss. I carefully edged closer and offered her an ice pop. I don't have any family either. How about we be family for each other? You? Yeah. Look, this is from when they locked me in a bathroom and beat me up. My uncle just yells at me for causing trouble. He doesn't care. Sophia had looked down at my bruised arm, then took the ice pop and hopped down from the ledge. What's your uncle's name? Marcus Hayes. Sophia slowly looked up. Marcus Hayes? Of the Hayes Corporation. Yeah. She had looked at me with an intensity one had never seen before and said, don't worry. From now on, we're family. Lost in the memory, it was only now, years later, that I finally understood the meaning behind that look. Maybe, in the moment before she learned my uncle's name, Sophia had genuinely wanted to be my family. But my connection to the Hayes family gave her an opening for revenge. She spent years telling me that family would never betray you, that if your family was hurt, you had to make the person responsible pay 1,000 times over. But from the very beginning, her promise had been built on a lie. Chloe said, Ethan, I can tell Sophia is in love with you. You said she had a hand in what happened to you in your past life. Maybe it's because you chose me. I can't risk you being tied to me. I can't take that gamble. You don't have much to do with the Hayes family, and Sophia knows that. So if you leave me, I can face whatever comes next on my own. I slowly shook my head. No, I'm not divorcing you. Did you know? In our past life, we were going to have a child. I never even got the chance to tell you. Chloe's breath caught. Really? Really? If I can't even protect my own wife and child, what kind of man am I? Chloe, I'll play along with your act, but I am not divorcing you. A few weeks later, the news broke. Well-known CEO Chloe Hayes was rumored to be divorcing her husband. That same day, photos of me moving out of our house were all over the internet. My friend Ryan was ecstatic as he watched me haul my bags into his apartment. Well, look what the cat dragged in. You finally decided to come join me in the real world and build something. Yeah, I said, my face a grim mask. Women are impossible to understand. Hey, a few days ago you were all lovey-dovey. What happened? Seeing the gossipy glint in his eyes, I said sullenly, she put jam on my bedsheets. That's it. We got divorced. So what are you going to do now? Live on my own. On the third day, I got a call from my Uncle Marcus. Ethan, why don't you come by the house tomorrow night? I held the phone to my ear and forced a laugh. Well, Uncle Marcus, to what do I owe the pleasure? Well, now that you're divorced, the family can't just let you suffer out there on your own. We're having a party. It'll be a good chance to help you find someone new. You seem to be well informed. So, are you coming or not? I'll be there. After I hung up, Ryan looked at me with concern. I thought you cut ties with your parents. What does their family business have to do with you? Blood is thicker than water. Even if I stay away, some people will always be looking to cause me harm. That night, dressed in my best suit, I walked through the doors of the Hayes family mansion. The ballroom was a glittering sea of champagne glasses and conversation. The moment I entered, all eyes turned to me, and a wave of whispers followed. So that's the younger Hayes' son? He doesn't seem like much. Well, with his parents out of the picture, what do you expect? Maybe you should have your daughter give it a shot. Marrying into the Hayes family could save her a decade of hard work. Get lost. I moved through the crowd, and as I rounded a corner, I heard a familiar voice. It's been a while. I followed the sound and saw Chloe, holding a glass of wine, surrounded by a crowd, laughing and talking. She was always the center of attention. Now that news of her divorce was out, she was swarmed by businessmen, all vying for her attention. She must be thrilled. The crowd noticed me and the chatter died down. Ms. Hayes, perhaps you two would like to catch up. Chloe shot me a cold glance before turning away. There's no need. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. I took a glass of champagne from a passing waiter and walked toward her. People parted before me, afraid they might get caught in the crossfire if we started a fight. Chloe's gaze landed on me, and for a brief moment, she seemed to forget her lines. I smiled. Just wanted to say hello. I hope you don't mind, Ms. Hayes. She finally snapped out of it, her eyes lingering on me for a moment too long before she said, Not at all. I put down my glass, turned away, and pushed open the doors to the terrace for some fresh air. But someone was already there. Someone I knew. Sophia. She was leaning against the railing, the scarred side of her face hidden in the shadows, leaving only the unblemished half visible. Ethan. Long time no see. I stopped. It has been a while. She laughed softly. Why so formal? I tried to relax, taking a deep breath. Why would you say that? I haven't even had a chance to ask you where you've been. You blocked my number, didn't you? Getting bold. I patted her on the shoulder, trying to sound playful like I used to. Suddenly, the light from the doorway was blocked by a figure. I caught a glimpse of Chloe out of the corner of my eye, casually leaning against the doorframe, watching us. Sophia was now completely in shadow. I had surgery. Surgery? She leaned forward slightly, and the dim light caught her face. The scarred skin had been mostly repaired. Look closely. Am I the same as I was before? I stared at her, speechless for a moment, before finally saying, You are. So, can we? I took a step back, putting some distance between us. I'm happy for you. Really. The terrace doors suddenly opened, and my Uncle Marcus came out, leading a group of guests. Everyone, let me make an introduction. This is my nephew, Ethan. And this is Sophia, the new actress we just signed. They've known each other since they were children. In fact, I was hoping this party might be a chance to help these two sort out their future together. A crowd gathered around us, murmuring their congratulations. They swarmed me and Sophia. I frowned. Uncle Marcus, I'm not ready to. Sophia linked her arm through mine and smiled. Don't worry, Uncle. I'll take good care of Ethan from now on. I tried to pull away, but her grip was surprisingly strong, like a vice. Thankfully, she let go after a moment and began to mingle effortlessly with the other guests. My emotions were a tangled mess. When Sophia was done schmoozing, I asked her, When did you get mixed up with my uncle? Sophia calmly smoothed her hair. I can only marry you if I have the Hayes family's approval. I had other plans, but your divorce saved me a lot of trouble. I looked at her face and felt like I was looking at a terrifying stranger. Sophia smiled. What's wrong? Don't you recognize me? Am I not the same Sophia you remember? I used to think Sophia had a smile as bright as the sun, that we were kindred spirits. But now it seemed I had been wrong. She advanced on me step by step, forcing me to back away, until my back was pressed against the glass door. Ethan, this is who I've always been. She forced a smile that looked almost menacing in the dim light. Originally, I wasn't going to spare you either, but I love you. As long as you come back to me, we can be like we were before. You don't want to die with Chloe again, do you? So it was her. I gritted my teeth. My hand found the doorknob behind me, and with a slight push, the door swung open. The light, elegant sound of a violin drifted in from the party. The terrace was flooded with light. Sophia, this time, I won't let you win. It wasn't until I was back in the crowd that I realized I was covered in a cold sweat. I made my way to the staircase and, following my memory, went up to the second floor. At the end of the hall was my old room. I just wanted to go inside and catch my breath. The moment I pushed the door open, a soft body tackled me onto the bed. A familiar scent filled the air, and Chloe's husky, wine-tinged voice whispered in my ear. Where did she touch you? My shoulder. Instantly, a searing kiss landed on my shoulder. It was a deep, lingering kiss. Chloe said nothing, just patiently, meticulously kissed away the spot where Sophia had touched me, replacing it with her own mark, before her lips found mine, nipping at them gently. I kissed her there in the darkness. After a long moment, I whispered, "Are you jealous?" "Furious." Chloe's voice was muffled. "No one else is allowed to touch you. No one." Then she moved to bite my shoulder. "Hey!" I pushed her away gently. "I have to go back downstairs." "How am I supposed to explain a bite mark on my shoulder?" Chloe frowned, clearly unconvinced. I said, "They'll say I jumped straight from our divorce to being with Sophia. Do you want to hear that kind of gossip?" She was silent for a moment. "No." "Then control yourself a little," I said, stroking her hair. "Sophia and my uncle are working together. She's even guessed about my situation and is prepared for your plans. Are you sure you can handle this?" "Ethan." "Yes." "If the Hayes family is seriously damaged because of this, what will you do?" So that's what she was worried about. I took her hand. "My parents had an arranged marriage. They hated each other. The year I was born, they dumped me with my uncle and moved abroad. My uncle only ever saw me as a tool to gain more power for the family. If it weren't for you, I'd probably be dead already. So don't worry about me," I said, my fingers tracing hers. I noticed she had put her wedding ring back on at some point, and a warmth spread through my chest. "If the Hayes Corporation really falls, it will be because of my uncle's own wicked deeds. He'll have gotten what he deserves." Over the next few months, I settled into a normal life. After all, since I'd come of age, I hadn't taken a dime from the Hayes family. I'd supported myself through work and school, and had become a successful designer on my own merits. My life was relatively peaceful, aside from being forced by my uncle to go on arranged dates with Sophia. Ryan was furious about it. "You already cut ties with them. Why are you still letting him order you around?" I didn't explain. Sophia knew my situation. If I didn't do what she wanted, she would get my uncle to cause problems for Chloe. I had to keep things stable until Chloe was ready to take them both down. Besides, Sophia let me choose the locations for our dates. So I always picked crowded public places in broad daylight, which felt safe enough. Ryan loved to watch TV. And lately, Chloe had been all over the financial news. He cursed her out every time he saw her on screen. "Ethan, you have to run your next wife by me first," he said, pointing the remote at the screen with a trembling hand, his voice cracking. "A woman like that, you can tell just by looking at her she's bad news. If I let you marry a woman like that, I'll eat my own shoes." I looked up from my pile of sketches and said, "Man, you shouldn't make promises you can't keep. You should always leave yourself an out." "Fine. I'll make you eat them with me." I was speechless. Because of Ryan's vehement opposition, I had to meet Chloe in secret. It was the middle of winter, and a fresh blanket of snow covered the city. I came out of the apartment building wearing a thick sweater and carrying a bag of trash. Chloe's car was parked at the curb. It was freezing, but she was standing outside, waiting for me. She was wearing the wool coat and scarf I had bought for her. "Come here." I waved her over. She ran over, practically skipping, and threw herself into my arms. Quickly shushed her. "Keep your voice down. Let's get in the car." "What's wrong?" "My friend thinks you're the worst woman on the planet." I furtively pulled her into the car. I killed the engine, and we were plunged into darkness. Only a nearby streetlight cast a pale glow on the fresh snow. I fumbled in the pocket of my thick jacket for a moment before pulling out a lollipop. "For you." Chloe smiled as she took it. "I have a whole collection of these from you." "You don't like it?" I reached for it, but she snatched it away. "Thank you. I love it." We didn't really have much in common, but we could talk for hours. I leaned against her, smiling. "My friend said if I ever remarried a woman like you, he'd what?" The words were too crude, so I just glossed over it. "Anyway, he'd do something disgusting." I sighed. "I can already picture him beating me to a pulp." Chloe laughed and took my hand in hers. "Maybe you should find someone else then." "Chloe," I nudged her. "Don't say things like that." She looked down, her fingers tightening around mine. Her fingers were long and perfect, but a little cold. I don't know what was wrong with me lately, but I kept having nightmares. In every one, Chloe would tell me to go on and live a good life without her. "Ethan, I'm just saying if," she paused, "if one day, we were suddenly separated." I cut her off before she could finish. "We're not going to be separated." I kissed her hair and sighed. "Never. We're never going to be apart." The next morning, I emerged from my room with dark circles under my eyes. Ryan was in the kitchen, a breakfast sandwich in his mouth. "I saw you get into a fancy car last night." I said nothing. He rolled his eyes. So, you went crawling back to your ex, and she humiliated you again, I bet. You have no shame. It's not like that. She's a good. Stop, he said, cleaning out his ear. If I hear you say one more good thing about her, I'm kicking you out. I gave up and took a sip of my coffee. I stared at my friend, my cheeks puffed out. He said, swallow. Did that woman steal your brain? You forgot how to eat. I spit out my coffee. I sprayed it all over the table. Before he could start yelling at me, I was already at the door, pulling on my coat. He wiped the coffee from his face, cursing. What the hell is wrong with? My face was pale. Chloe's pregnant. So what? What does her being pregnant have to? Ryan stopped short, his voice cracking. It's yours. It's mine. He fell silent, then muttered, oh, hell. A few minutes later, we were both in a cab. When Chloe came to see me yesterday, she hadn't looked well, and she hadn't wanted the lollipop. It was my fault for not noticing. It was her first pregnancy. She wouldn't know the signs, but I had. She was definitely pregnant. Just then, my phone rang. It was Sophia. Ethan, where are you? I had completely forgotten about my date with her today. Sorry, something urgent came up. Where are you? Send me the address. Ryan, knowing how I felt about her, snatched the phone from my hand and turned it off. It was better this way. Safer. I sighed. Please keep this a secret. I don't want the Hayes family to find out. After a moment, he asked, so you're just going to let her have the baby? Yes. All right, you're divorced. She'll probably just find a new father for the kid. Shut up. The news was on the radio in the cab. We both listened for a moment, then fell silent. The Hayes family was in trouble. The news had broken this morning. It was about a major safety incident on a construction site from years ago. As their partners on the project, Chloe's family company was also implicated. Ryan looked at me with concern. I shook my head. It's fine. I hadn't expected Chloe to move so quickly. A string of other scandals about the Hayes family followed, each one another straw on the camel's back. It was only a matter of time before it all came crashing down. I thought about my past life, about how my uncle had been the mastermind who convinced Foster to set that bomb. The anxiety I had been carrying for so long began to ease, just a little. This time it was 5 years earlier. Chloe's company was stronger than ever, and my uncle's empire hadn't grown to its monstrous former size. Things wouldn't end the same way this time, right? The traffic was light, and the driver was smooth. Halfway there, my eyelids started to feel heavy. I decided to lean against Ryan and rest my eyes for a bit. Wake me when we get there. I passed out before I even heard his reply. After what felt like a long time, a voice called to me from far away. Ethan, wake the hell up. The harsh screech of metal on metal jolted me awake. My limbs felt like lead. I slowly opened my eyes and saw concrete pillars and Ryan tied to one of them. A gust of wind brought the acrid smell of industrial grease and damp earth. I dazedly scrambled to my feet. Ryan was kicking his legs futilely, the ropes creaking behind him. Oh, thank God, you're awake. Hurry up and untie me. Realizing we were in a strange place and had been tied up, I rushed over and squatted down, examining the thick rope binding him. A wave of familiar dread washed over me. I looked up, scanning our surroundings, and a cold sweat broke out on my skin. This was the abandoned factory where I had died in my past life. The knot was too tight to untie. I'd have to try and saw through it. The grating sound of the rope against the concrete echoed through the building. Ryan was cursing. They dared to kidnap me? They must have a death wish. After working at the rope for what felt like ages, it was barely frayed. He slumped against the pillar, exhausted. Ethan, just stop. They tied me up, not you. That means they're after my family. You should go. Run, call the police. I gave him a bitter smile. I'm sorry, Ryan. I think I'm the one who dragged you into this. What do you mean? Before I could explain, Sophia's voice came from behind us. Your friend is certainly loud. Ryan tried to look, but I quickly covered his eyes. I turned to face Sophia. He doesn't know anything. Let him go. Ryan couldn't hold it in. Listen here, you bitch. My last name is Connolly. You know, the Connollys? If my father finds out you kidnapped me, you are going to be in a world of hurt. Sophia's face darkened when she heard that. I said, you heard him. This is between us. There's no need to drag his family into it. Ryan's father was a senator, and his brother was a cop. He'd grown up fearless. If anything happened to him, no one was walking out of here alive. Sophia tossed me a box cutter. Cut him loose, but you don't move. Otherwise, none of us are walking out of here alive. I quickly grabbed it and sawed through the ropes binding Ryan. Don't look back. Just go home. Ryan frowned and whispered, "This isn't a trick, is it? The moment I'm out, I'm calling the cops." "Good," I whispered back, "but I have a feeling they're past the point of being afraid of the police." Remembering the explosion from my past life, I gave my friend a shove. At least one of us could get out. He squeezed my shoulder. "Ethan, hang on. I'll get help." And with that, he ran off without a backward glance. In the empty, cavernous space, it was just me and Sophia. She took my arm and pulled me to the window. "Let's see who's come to join the party." Down below, a slender figure was being held at gunpoint by my Uncle Marcus. I recognized Chloe immediately, and my heart seized. Sophia laughed softly. "By the time the police get here, all they'll find is Chloe's body. And your uncle won't be getting away either." My heart was pounding, my fingertips ice-cold and trembling. But the more I showed I cared about her, the more danger she would be in. I closed my eyes. "We're divorced. Whatever happens to her has nothing to do with me." "Is that so?" Sophia said, her gaze cold as she looked down below. "Uncle Marcus, shoot her in the leg." A gunshot rang out. The sound echoed through the factory. Blood was spreading across the fabric on Chloe's thigh. She collapsed onto one knee, her pale face turned up toward us. "Sophia, I'm here. Let him go." Sophia ignored her and turned to me. "Ethan, are you happy now?" I was frozen, unable to speak. "Uncle Marcus, the other." I grabbed her arm, my voice trembling. "Don't. I'm begging you." Sophia's smile vanished, her knuckles white as she clenched her fists. She shot a defiant look down at Chloe, then tilted my chin up and kissed me. I tried to pull away, but she whispered, "Do you want Chloe to die?" I froze. Sophia pressed her lips against mine, a cruel, grinding kiss. Nausea churned in my stomach. "Do it," Sophia commanded coldly. Another shot rang out from below. My mind went blank, and I scrambled to the window. Chloe, the image I had dreaded, of her lying in a pool of blood, wasn't what I saw. It was my uncle. He was on the ground, a bullet wound in his back. Chloe's left hand was bleeding. In the distance, a SWAT team was swarming the building, surrounding us in seconds. Sophia's expression changed. She grabbed a gun, pointed it at me, and dragged me back behind a concrete pillar. Outside, I could hear the police shouting at her through a megaphone. She hadn't expected them to get here so fast. Sophia handcuffed me to a pipe, hiding us in a blind spot from the snipers outside. She yelled, "I have a bomb. Let Chloe come in and see me, or I'll take him with me." "Sophia, calm down." "I am calm. In your last life, you were willing to die with Chloe. Why not with me?" Sophia's voice grew more and more agitated. "I could have fixed everything. Why did you have to come back too? Give me back the real Ethan." "Sophia." A clear, familiar voice came from just a few feet away. "I'm here. Let him go." It was Chloe. I screamed at her. "You idiot, what are you doing here?" The blood on her leg had dried, and her hand was bandaged. She looked even more battered than she had in my past life. From the moment she set foot on the second floor, her eyes were locked on me, terrified that something would happen to me. Sophia pulled me back a few steps, the gun now aimed at Chloe. "Chloe, this time, let's play a different game." She pointed to a leather jacket lying nearby. "Put it on," she said to Chloe. I knew that jacket all too well. "No, don't put it on," I screamed, my voice cracking. "You can't." Sophia let out a crazed, excited laugh. "Ethan, in our last life, Chloe dared to die with you. What about you? How much do you really love her?" "No!" I thrashed against the handcuffs, trying desperately to break free. Sophia sneered. "I've waited a long time for this day. Today, either she dies or you do." Chloe, who hadn't heard our whispered exchange, said, "Stay away from him. I'll put it on." "Chloe, just go." I screamed until my voice was raw. "Please." As if she couldn't hear me, Chloe quickly slipped on the jacket. A single beep. The countdown began. I closed my eyes in despair. Sophia gave me a shove. "Choose, Ethan." I stood between them. I took a step toward Chloe, and she took a step back. "Ethan, don't come any closer," Chloe warned, her voice grave. "It's a bomb." I froze, not daring to move. I wasn't afraid to die, but choosing Chloe right now, in front of Sophia, would only escalate the situation. It might even set off the bomb early. "Admit it, Ethan," Sophia taunted from the side. "You only love yourself. You're just as selfish and cold-hearted as your uncle." She sneered. Chloe backed up toward the window. She glanced at me, then said, "Sophia, I am truly sorry about what happened to your father. You don't have the right to talk about my father." Sophia, who had been enjoying the show, was suddenly enraged. She took a step forward. "Do any of you, born with silver spoons in your mouths, have an ounce of sincerity in you? But your father wasn't following safety protocols. He wasn't wearing a hard hat, and we still provided a generous compensation package." "Shut up." Chloe's lips twisted into a cold, sarcastic smile. "You're just as incompetent as you claim we are." I was shaking all over. This was insane. Every word from Chloe was a dagger aimed straight at Sophia's weakest point. Was she trying to get herself killed? Sophia produced a lighter from somewhere, threw it to the ground, and the floor erupted in flames. That smell of accelerant I'd noticed earlier, she must have poured it before we arrived. "It was all of you. You ruined my life." Sophia advanced on me, her eyes bloodshot. Her not yet fully healed face looked grotesque in the flickering firelight. "Ethan, why didn't you choose me? If you had just told me you didn't like scars, I wouldn't have been so hard on myself." It was like a bucket of ice water had been dumped over my head. She had done it to herself. "You're insane." "Of course I am. How else was I supposed to use your guilt to get information on Chloe?" After years of lying in wait, Sophia had finally torn off her gentle mask, revealing the paranoid, obsessive person underneath. Her laugh was a harsh, grating sound, like a broken accordion. "Ethan, if you had chosen me, it wouldn't have ended like this. You have only yourself to blame for how things turned out. Now you can come to hell with me." She pulled out a remote detonator. Without thinking, I grabbed the gun from the floor and fired at the handcuffs. I spun around and lunged for Sophia, grabbing for the detonator. "Ethan!" Chloe screamed my name, and in the next instant, there was a deafening bang. Along with the sound of shattering glass, my hearing went dead. A high-pitched ringing filled my ears. The tinnitus was a sharp needle piercing my brain. I saw Chloe's bloodless face in front of me, her mouth moving, but I couldn't hear the words. I felt like I'd been blown to pieces. My whole body was numb, devoid of strength. But dying with her, I wasn't afraid at all. Was I not afraid? Then why was I crying? The deafness was fleeting. The next second, a cacophony of shouts exploded in my ears like a bomb. "Suspect down. Body located on the second floor of the abandoned factory. Team 1 reporting the explosive device is intact. Hostages are secure. No other explosives found on site. The fire is spreading fast. All units, evacuate the hostages immediately." As I was being helped out, I looked back and saw Sophia lying on the floor, her lifeless eyes staring in my direction. Dead. The cold air cleared the smoke from my lungs. Sirens wailed all around us. The flashing red and blue lights painted the falling dusk. Ryan's cursing voice sounded like a heavenly choir. "It's the 21st century for crying out loud. We have laws. Who the hell still uses bombs? These psychos need to be locked up for life, or better yet, get the death penalty. Just one bullet, bam. Hey, they got them all. Don't let any of them get away. All right, Connolly, go check on your friend. We'll handle the rest." A voice, probably his brother's, said. Ryan spotted me kneeling in the snow and yelled, "Ethan, get up. Go check on your wife and kid." Chloe, who was nearby having the bomb vest carefully removed by the police, blushed to the tips of her ears. I walked straight to her. The moment the vest was off, I scooped her up into my arms and, without a word, carried her toward the car. "Hey, who do you think you are? You can't just..." One of the officers started to protest. The car door slammed shut, cut off Ryan's protests. I stared at her, my face grim. Chloe shrank back into the corner of the seat. "Don't look at me like that. You're scaring me." "You were scared? You were scared and you still walked in there? What did you think it was, a game?" I let loose, yelling at her. Tears immediately welled up in Chloe's eyes. That was a bomb. I was so furious I could feel the veins throbbing in my temples. What if Sophia had pushed the button? What then? She closed her eyes and slumped against me. "Oh no, I think I'm going to faint." I was speechless. I took a deep breath, holding it in until my head felt like it would explode. It was only then that I noticed her hands were trembling. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled." I held her tightly, trying to keep my voice even. Thank God we were both still alive. "Are your wounds bandaged?" she asked. She had been wearing a bulletproof vest, and with my uncle's poor aim, the bullet had only grazed her. I, on the other hand, was covered in cuts and bruises. "Yeah, I don't believe you. Let me see." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It's on my upper thigh. She immediately started trying to pull down my pants. We're married. What are you so shy about? Ryan's muffled voice came through the window. What are you two doing in there? He yanked open the car door. Light flooded the car. Chloe was kneeling between my legs, her hands on my belt buckle, which was halfway undone. Ryan stood there, phone in hand, staring at us with a blank expression for a full 3 seconds before slamming the door shut. Yeah, is this the ASPCA? I'd like to report a case of public indecency, I heard him say as he walked away. When Chloe and I renewed our vows, Ryan sat at the head table. He barely touched his food. When we came to his table for a toast, Chloe said with a graceful smile, I've heard Ethan talk so much about you. He once mentioned that if he ever remarried and it was to me, something rather unpleasant might happen. Pinned by her curious gaze, he remembered his grand declaration. If he remarries her, I'll eat my own shoes. He looked at me. I looked at him. We were both speechless. I had only mentioned it in passing. Who knew Chloe had such a good memory? Ryan forced a smile and raised his glass. Well, that's all in the past. I'd like to propose a toast. To the happy couple. May you have a long and happy life together. Chloe smiled sweetly. Thank you. After we moved on, I muttered to her, that was ages ago. Why did you have to bring that up? She laughed. I was curious. Really? Yes. I hesitated for a moment, then a wicked grin spread across my face. Lean in. I'll tell you a secret. I pulled her close and whispered in her ear. Chloe covered her ears, her face flushing as if she'd heard something scandalous. I was laughing so hard my stomach hurt. Can you imagine if he actually did it, and then made me join him? What would people say? We'd never live it down. My happy laughter echoed through the hall. Chloe just watched me, her eyes so full of gentle affection it was breathtaking. After the reception, our guests were free to enjoy the beachside resort. That evening, Chloe changed out of her wedding dress and into some casual clothes, a wide-brimmed sun hat on her head, and ran along the beach like a happy child. You know, she said, you always used to say you wanted to come to the beach with me, but we never did. Before? You mean? Chloe asked, confused. Oh, I mean the you from 5 years in the future, I blurted out. Chloe frowned. She sounds old. Not at all, I said, a reminiscent smile on my face. More sophisticated, I'd say. That night, the moment I walked into our bedroom, I was taken captive. A dangerous presence crept up behind me. With a soft click, I was handcuffed. Chloe's cool voice was laced with desire. Does she know you like I do? I froze, and it suddenly dawned on me why she had been acting so strangely all day. She was jealous. I burst out laughing. Hey, are you? Chloe's eyes were practically smoldering. Ethan, who do you like more? Me or her? Don't talk like that. Are you defending her? Her voice was dripping with jealousy. No, that's not it, I said, almost crying with laughter. Are you going to remember this conversation in 5 years and interrogate me all over again? Chloe paused, then said with perfect seriousness, in principle, yes. Why do I have to suffer because you two are competing with each other? She ignored me, her expression unreadable as she looked at my reflection in the mirror. I'd love for her to see this. I covered my face in embarrassment. Don't say that. Chloe kissed me, a deep, possessive kiss, and whispered, Ethan, you're mine. The night grew late. Moonlight filtered through the curtains, tracing the line of her profile. Chloe was asleep. I gently stroked her cheek, a warmth spreading through my chest. In my past life, I had held Chloe's hand countless times and lamented, if only we had gotten together sooner. For 5 long years, we had lived like two strangers in pain. During those 5 years, I think I must have started to fall for her even then. On the nights she would quietly pull the blanket over me, there were moments I wanted to pull her close and say, let's start over. But what happened to Sophia was a thorn in my side. Every time I felt that flicker of affection I refused to acknowledge, that thorn would dig deeper. It was a constant reminder that Chloe had hurt my family. Maybe because it had been suppressed for so long. When the truth finally came out, all that pent-up affection erupted at once, giving us that brief, intense, romantic honeymoon phase. I had been in love with her for much longer than I ever realized. Ethan, why are you awake? Chloe's voice was still thick with sleep. I cupped her face in my hands and leaned in to give her the softest of kisses. I love you. Beneath my palm, I could feel Chloe's heart begin to race. This woman, she still couldn't handle being teased. I love you too, she murmured, catching my lips before I could pull away, taking control and deepening the kiss. I was caught off guard by her sudden passion. Whoa, what's gotten into you? I just had a dream. Oh, Chloe opened her eyes, and I saw a complex, unreadable emotion in their depths. I dreamed about our past life. I held my breath. Really? Yes, she said, her hands cradling my face as if I were a precious jewel. Ethan, I am so grateful we got a second chance. The night was long, the moon was shy, and the wind was a gentle caress. A warm, sweet scent drifted on the air, and the breeze made the curtains dance, brushing against the wind chimes in the corner. It was the sound of our hearts beating in unison. I was a gentle ocean, holding the moon in my arms, and I whispered, "When did you first fall in love with me? Was it after we got married?" And the moon replied, "No, I've loved you for a long, long time,